Thanks for joining me. This is Danny, and welcome back to my Botania series. Today we are going to be making a Botania tree farm with nothing but Botania and vanilla Minecraft. And we're going to be doing it over here. So what we're going to need for this, I've got some kind of placeholders in place. This is the footprint of the farm. It's going to be about this big. We're going to be growing 8 trees, and we're going to be growing them fairly quickly. So it's actually going to produce quite a bit of stuff. Here's what we're going to use. Everything on this side of my inventory, plus a couple other things which we'll get to in a minute. So a few chests. 3 is probably enough. I just made a couple extras. We need a mana pool. We're going to need a composite mana lens. Now this is a bore lens and a warp lens combined in a crafting table, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. 8 force relays, 8 saplings, 9 mana spreaders. We don't need baked potatoes. I was just eating those. We need a couple of hovering hourglasses. Hovering hourglasses, yes. We need a couple of open crates, a couple hopper hawks, a couple of random carpuses, and a couple of munch dews, which we are going to make floating, and I'll do that with you. Now, depending on how big you want to make this mana farm, or this tree farm, you can use more or fewer of these items. You can cut all these in half if you just want to make this like 2 to 4 trees, but we're going to do 8 trees, so that's why we need this much resources. If you want to do more, if you want to do 16 trees, then you can just basically double these resources, except maybe the mana pool. Now before we do, there's a couple things that I wanted to do with you. Now we're actually going to be using 8 composite mana lenses, 8 bore warp lenses. They don't stack though, so I've only got one in my inventory right now, but I just wanted to show you how I make these because it's kind of important. So you can, this is 2 mana lenses combined into one. It's a bore lens and it's a warp lens with a slime ball. And when you take 2 mana lenses and you combine them together with a slime ball in a crafting grid, you get a composite lens. So this is a composite bore warp lens. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to be a bore lens with warp qualities. So it's going to allow us to use force relays to warp our mana burst. And we'll see how that's going to work in a little bit. But you do have to make sure you do it in this order, and that in the end you end up with a bore lens, a lens that looks like a bore lens. Of course, if you reverse these, you're going to end up with a warp bore lens, which is pretty much useless. So make sure you do it like so, because you want the bore warp lens, not the warp bore lens. I want to make the munch dews floating flowers. So to do this, we're going to make 2 of them. So we're going to need 4 glowstone. That's 2 for each. We're going to need 2 pasture seeds, which is basically just grass that you pick up with the shears, long grass, thrown into a mana pool. And that gives you pasture seeds. And then we're just going to need a couple pieces of dirt. I'm going to grab a couple of flowers. It doesn't matter what flowers. Any mystical flowers will do. So I'm just going to take what we have the most of. We have a lot of mystical blue flowers. We don't use those much. So I'm going to make a floating blue flower. I'm going to make 2 floating blue flowers. So to make the floating blue flowers, we take our mystical flowers and we combine them with glowstone to make glimmering blue flowers. And then we take our glimmering blue flowers and we combine them with the pasture seeds and the dirt to get floating blue flowers. And then we take our floating blue flowers and we combine them with our munch dew. And that will make a floating munch dew. And you can do that with any flower. Now, it's a little confusing because if we look up floating random carpus in JEI and we click on it, there's no recipe. So that's how you do it. You have to make a floating regular flower, a floating mystical flower. And then you can turn any flower into a floating flower. And I'm actually going to do that with this hopper hawk as well, so that we don't have that big ugly piece of dirt, but not right now. And then we're going to take 4 of our mana spreaders, and we're going to put them in a crafting grid with some redstone in order to make pulse mana spreaders. And basically a pulse mana spreader is just like a regular mana spreader, except instead of doing a mana burst when it has enough mana, it will only do a mana burst when given a redstone pulse, which is why it's called a pulse mana spreader. So as I mentioned before, this is the footprint of the farm. All these blocks are going to be replaced by other blocks. They're just placeholders. Mana spreader the mana pool goes right in the middle, and then we're going to put the 4 pulse mana spreaders surrounding the mana pool. And then on top of those mana spreaders, we're going to put the force relays. Or 4 of the force relays. So a force relay is basically just a piston that you put in a mana pool, and it comes out a force relay. And then we are going to, in bind mode, with the Wand of the Forest in bind mode, so you may have to shift right click to toggle between function mode and bind mode. We're going to shift right click to point the mana spreaders up into the force relays. And then we are going to take our 4 composite bore warp lenses, and we're going to put them in each of these 4 mana spreaders. So essentially what this is going to do, a warp lens causes a mana burst when it hits a force relay to be redirected to where that force relay is linked. So to link a force relay, we right click on it, and then we right click on the block that we want to redirect it. So we're actually going to put one of these right there. So now that force relay is linked to this block. So anytime a mana burst with the warp lens hits this force relay, the mana burst is going to end up coming out here. So, and it's going to be going in the same direction. So when this mana spreader shoots straight up into that force relay, the mana burst is going to come straight up out of this block. These 4 blocks over here and on the other side are where we're going to be putting our saplings and our trees. So I'm actually going to put coarse dirt on all those blocks, and we'll see why in a second. Down here, I'm going to put a block of coarse dirt, 1 block under the ground level, and then it doesn't really matter what I put here. I can just put regular dirt. We can let that turn into grass, and then I'm going to put a raining carpus on top of that. So the raining carpus basically is going to place blocks or items or whatever onto blocks that are the same as the block that's underneath the block that it's planted on. So in this case, it's planted on this block. It's going to look at the block underneath it. It's going to say, hey, that's a see, that's a coarse dirt block. I'm going to place any items that I find floating around onto other coarse dirt blocks. So therefore, when we throw saplings into the world, the raining carpus is going to pick them up and plant them on the coarse dirt. Now, an alternative to this that might be a little bit easier to manage and see is that if you do make the raining carpus a floating flower using the same method that we used to make the floating munch dews, then the block immediately under the raining carpus is the one that matters. But when it's planted on the ground, it's the one under the block it's planted on that matters. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 4 force relays and I'm going to link them to the furthest coarse dirt blocks. So we take our Wand of the Forest, we just right click, right click, right click, right click. Okay, so now when a mana burst comes up through the force relay, it's going to come up over here. And then 7 blocks up, we're going to put another force relay. And then, so then what's going to happen is this mana burst is going to come up into this force relay. It's going to come up through here, and then it's going to go into that force relay. So then we're going to link this force relay to this coarse dirt. A single mana burst will be able to bore through 2 trees at the same time. Oops, I screwed up over here. I put them in the wrong place. Now, just so you know, force relays, in the upper left-hand corner, if you look at what one probe is saying, it says no tool. That is correct. There, you do not want to use a pickaxe to break these. You will lose it. So you just want to take your Wand of the Forest and shift right-click, and that will break it instantly. Oh, our raining carpus planted this. So what's going to happen now is the mana spreader is going to pulse into this force relay, which will cause the mana burst to come over here, go into that force relay, which will cause the mana burst to come over here, and then go up into a mana spreader. So we're going to put a mana spreader up there. And that's going to basically send mana back into the pool. And I'm going to put our last mana spreader in there. And although we may need to upgrade this one, I don't know yet. We'll see. We may need to upgrade that one. Oh, I can't get in there. I'm going to have to dig under there. We may have to upgrade that one to a faster mana spreader. Okay, so it's now linked to that pool. Yeah, I mean to that, yeah, right. Okay, so now I'm going to stick the Munch Dews right there. So it's about 4 blocks off the ground. So this is going to end up eating leaves that are above 4 blocks above the ground. So it's not going to eat all the leaves. It's only going to eat some of the leaves in order to generate some mana for this tree farm to make it somewhat self-supporting. And we can get rid of these. And then these mana spreaders, we are going to direct into that mana spreader. And this as well. This probably ended up linking to... Did it link to that one? Yes, okay, so the Munch Dew already linked to the correct mana pool, or mana spreader. So back here, out of the way a little bit, I'm going to set up an open crate, and I'm going to put a hopper hock next to it. And I'm going to put an item frame on it. And on the item frame, I'm going to put a sapling. Oops. Telling the hopper hock that it can place saplings that it finds in the world in that open crate, which will essentially cause them to drop down, which will mean that they'll be accessible to the reigning carpus. However, as you can see, the hopper hock is picking it up before the reigning carpus has a chance to. So we are going to give the hopper hock a redstone signal. Actually, go like that. And that. Okay, I set up one tree so that we can get a little bit of mana in there to get things started. I just planted a tree, or let the reigning carpus plant a tree, and then I bone mealed it. And our floating Munch Dew ate up all the leaves on top, and you can see that it left the leaves below for saplings. So I have the reigning carpuses, I moved them over here so that they're closer to this open crate, and so that they just reach the furthest coarse dirt. Now you could theoretically get away with just a single reigning carpus if you make this farm smaller, if you bring these in a little bit so that the trees are closer together. I have them kind of at the optimal distance for for the fastest like tree production. But it all depends how you want to lay it out, and how efficient you want to be and everything. So now our hopper hock is getting a redstone signal, so that means it's not going to pick things up. Because the hopper hock is made with a redstone root, any flower that you make with a redstone root will be turned off when you give it a redstone signal. Now we're going to take a redstone repeater and one of our hourglasses. If I can find, oh yeah, a hovering hourglass. And basically a hovering hourglass is kind of a redstone clock. It's basically Botania's redstone clock, and the way it works is that you give it sand or soul sand to tell it how long, what kind of duration you want for the ticks. So each piece of sand will be 1 second. So if we give it 5 sand, it's going to be every 5 seconds. And if we actually look at it, you can see it gives us a redstone pulse. If we look at it with our wand of the forest, it'll show us that it's every 5 seconds it's giving us a pulse, which is shutting off this redstone torch. So if we now throw down all these oak saplings, our reigning carpus will be able to pick them up and plant them. And every 5 seconds, our hopper hock will pick them up and throw them over here. So I'm placing these blocks on all 4 of these corners, partly for looks, for aesthetics, but partly for functional purposes, for redstone, to make our redstone a little easier. We've got a couple of redstone repeaters. I'm going to put one on 2 opposite corners. And I'm going to kind of put them out of the way so that we can't see them very well. And then we're going to take one of our hovering hourglasses right here. And we're going to set this one to about 15 seconds. So we'll put 15 sand in there. And then we're going to put redstone around here just basically so that we can pulse all 4 of the mana spreaders every 15 seconds. All right, so I'm just going to throw these saplings down for now. So our tree farm is basically functional right now. However, we've got items laying all over the place. So the next thing we have to do is work on picking up all of our stuff, our logs and everything else. So right now I'm just going to do this with vanilla, just so that we can do the vanilla experience with vanilla and Botania. Later on I'm going to use storage drawers to kind of manage this inventory a little bit better, but for now I'm just going to set up 3 vanilla chests, well, Quark chests really, our other hopper hock, and we're going to do the same thing with this hopper hock that we did with that one, except we're going to give it a longer duration, probably about 15 seconds, similar to what we did this one. In fact, actually this one we might make more like a minute. And by the way, to take the sand out of here, all you have to do is right click, and that basically disables it, and then you can put in a different amount. I'm actually going to put a piece of soul sand in here, and what the soul sand is going to do is give us a minute. So now it's just going to run once a minute. And then this hopper hock over here, I'm going to turn off the same way we did the other one. I'm going to put redstone underneath it. Just dig some of this out now. We'll be able to bury this when we're done so that we won't see any of this. Put a piece of dirt right there. And I'm going to place a redstone torch here to disable it. And then I'm going to have a repeater going into it. And then we're going to have another hourglass down here. And this one's going to go about every 15 seconds. So that it gives this guy over here enough time to pick up the saplings and make them available for the rain and carpus. So this is pretty much fully automated right now. There are a few tweaks I want to do. For one, we do have a little extra mana in there, so I'm going to set up a couple agricarnations to make this guy go a little faster. Set one up there, set one up over here, and this is basically going to randomly bone meal the trees around here, and it's going to pull mana from our mana pool. Now the munch dews, they do have a cooldown period, so there we go. They'll go forever and ever as long as they have leaves, but as soon as they don't have leaves anymore, as soon as they stop, they're going to have a cooldown period before they can munch leaves again. So we should have a mana burst coming soon, and we'll see how this goes. It's going to go up through here, and then up through there, and then in the mana pool, oh there we go, and then it's going to go back to the main mana spread. I've got 3 item frames, and I'm going to separate them between these 3. Otherwise, we could always just put 3 storage drawers here too if you're using the storage drawers mod. We're going to put 1 for saplings. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do 1 for wood. And we could always do a 3rd one without a filter so that if it happens to pick anything else up, it'll just put it in there. But it will prioritize the ones that are filtered. So we're going to want to have 1 for apples. How do we not have any apples yet? That's interesting. So we can see those will sit there for a while. That back one will pick them up, and then they'll get planted. And then eventually, this one up here will pick them up. So that we don't, otherwise we would just have like a growing number of saplings just sitting there, being picked up and dropped over and over and over again. But this way it just keeps it a little cleaner. I did make a few adjustments. I moved the rain and carpus back. Now, when the bore lens breaks things with the warp lens on it, it actually brings the blocks back here. Since it's these mana spreaders that's actually breaking the blocks, that's where the blocks end up dropping. So we want to keep our rain and carpuses away from those mana spreaders. Otherwise, they're going to pick up blocks. They're going to pick up wood and place it on the coarse dirt, and we don't want that, of course. The other thing I did is I moved these a little bit closer. They were out here, these outside saplings, and every once in a while the saplings would fall out of range, so not a big deal because it's not like we were losing a lot of stuff out there, but it seems to be working a little better since I did that, and I also did it on this side. So other than that, everything is working great. We've got a lot of wood coming in already. We've got we've got a little more than a stack of wood. And we are getting a net gain of mana. Very, very, very slowly. Yeah, it's gone up just a tiny bit, so which is fine because this is not meant for mana production. This is meant for wood. So, and it's meant to be self-sufficient. So let me just go over this one more time just to kind of explain how it all works again. So first of all, we have our rain and Corpuses, which will place blocks on whatever block is underneath the block it's on. So in this case, in fact, if we hover over this rain and Corpus, it says coarse dirt. So that means that whatever this thing picks up, it's going to plant on any nearby coarse dirt. And it just so happens that the range for this thing just reaches this last oak sapling, which is why I have 2 of them. We might be able to get away with having just 1 if we squeeze these in together, but whatever. They're not terribly expensive. Saplings will grow into trees, and we have our agri-carnations here to help them grow a little bit faster. So once they grow, they're going to be broken by a bore warp lens, which is going into this force relay, which we right-clicked on, and then right-clicked on this block, on this coarse dirt block, to basically redirect the mana burst over here. So the mana burst is going straight up into this force relay, which is linked to this block down here, which goes, and then the mana burst goes straight up into this mana spreader, and then back into this mana spreader, which goes into the mana pool. And as we can see, when it breaks, the logs end up over here by the cluster of mana spreaders, and then those eventually get picked up. The saplings get picked up by this hopper hawk, which has a knot gate under it and a hovering hourglass that every 5 seconds pulses it to pick up all the saplings, and then gives it another 5 seconds in order to give the rain and Corpus enough time to plant them on the nearby coarse dirt. And then everything else gets picked up by this hopper hawk every 15 seconds. So of course it's 15 seconds in order to give that hopper hawk time to pick up the saplings. And then and then of course these 3 chests have item frames on them in order to tell it what it's going to drop into each chest. And then we have these munch dews up here that are eating the leaves. They're 4 blocks up. They're eating all the leaves 4 blocks and above. So they don't eat leaves below them. They only eat leaves at their level or above. And that's basically powering this entire system. And then we have an hourglass over here that's set to every minute, which basically pulses all of our pulse mana spreaders. I've done a few tweaks here to kind of finalize the build. I actually did add another hopper hawk here. That's not on a timer. So this one is working all the time, and that one is going to pick up our wood and our apples immediately. So then we don't have to worry about the wood getting close to the rain and Corpus and being placed instead of a sapling. So the wood's going to get picked up right away. The saplings are going to get picked up right away. And then this hopper hawk, I changed the timer so that it's only picking up once every minute. So we're only picking up saplings once a minute, and during that minute, they're accumulating over here, which is going to give our rain and Corpus plenty of time to place them. And we'll have quite a few of them accumulating over here over the course of a minute. And of course, I have storage drawers here now instead of vanilla chests, which, of course, it just makes this a little bit easier. I don't have to use the item frames anymore because, of course, it will only accept what's already in the drawer. So we won't have to worry about that. And I might lock the drawers. These 2 drawers have void upgrades on them, and we are already full of saplings. 2048 saplings. This has been running for a long time now. In fact, we have quite a bit of wood. We've got 141 wood here. I've got a full hopper below, and I have some hopper ducks going up, carrying it to our furnaces up there. I just did that off camera. That's not Botania related. It's kind of ugly, and we're going to work on improving that in the future. And I did also add quite a few more agri-carnations. We've got 4 on each side. So that's been speeding up the production quite a bit. And in the next episode, we are going to secure another resource. And that is going to be mining resources. We are going to set up kind of a Botania quarry setup. That is going to be almost a quantum quarry type thing that's going to produce ores for us from kind of from nothing. So I do hope you join me for that. Of course, if you do have any questions or comments or whatever, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, or if you just want to say hi or whatever, you can do that as well. And of course, if you did enjoy this, please don't forget to click the like button and to join me next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.